Yo, what's up, Phantom Thieves? I'm back with another video for you guys. Finally, right? Um, I want to talk to you guys about Monster Hunter for a minute, and maybe I'm in a very small group of people that feel this way, but I was playing Monster Hunter Rise, and a couple of things hit me. And first off, I want to say that I enjoyed Monster Hunter Rise. Like, I'm I'm a really big Monster Hunter fan. I've put in literally hundreds, maybe even thousands of hours into Monster Hunter overall. I'm not somebody that's like, I'm not like the speed runners or anything like that or like the expert players, but I really love Monster Hunter, right? But it also got me thinking, like, my first Monster Hunter was the original on PlayStation 2, and then I didn't play DOS or any of that, but I got back into Monster, and I stopped Monster Hunter back in the day because when I was younger, it was too hard of a game for me. But I rekindled my Monster Hunter relationship with Monster Hunter Freedom Unite when I got not a Vita, a PSP, and that game was incredible. So I've been playing Monster Hunter for a really long time, and I don't want to sound like one of those people that is only stuck on the old days, but with Monster Hunter, I kind of miss the old days of Monster Hunter. Like, there is no denying what Monster Hunter World and Rise have done for the series as far as bringing in new hunters. And I am beyond happy that we got so many people introduced to Monster Hunter. But I feel like old school fans, in a way, have kind of been forgotten. And what I mean by that is, and again, this isn't a bad thing, but like with the quality of life, right? So Monster Hunter has, in a way, become easier. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a bad thing, but I've noticed, especially with Monster Hunter Rise, the lack of a challenge is very noticeable, at least to fans of Monster Hunter that have been playing for the long run. There's a lack of challenge. There's a lack of feeling accomplished when you kill these monsters. There's a lack of variety. Like, back in the day, probably my favorite Monster Hunter achievement, me and my homeboy Greg, there was one Elder Dragon in specific that we took down as a group, right? And it was Amatsu, which to this day is my favorite Elder Dragon. I remember when I was still working at GameStop, I was off that day, but I get a phone call from Greg and he is ecstatic. And he's like, yo, bro, you won't believe what I did. And he told me he soloed Amatsu. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that the one monster that we hunted together, he finally soloed. So I was like, yo, I gotta do it. It was legitimately a personal mission of mine. Like, this was real life or something. I had to solo Amatsu. And it took me the longest time until I finally did it. And the sense of accomplishment that I got from soloing Amatsu in gaming, there wasn't a better feeling. Maybe outside of like beating the Soul series, there wasn't too much bigger of a feeling, and maybe Ninja Gaiden 2 back in the day, but beating Amatsu solo was incredible for me. And I realized things had changed when I fought Amatsu in Monster Hunter Rise. Don't get me wrong, the music was there. It was actually a really fun fight, but something about it did not feel as accomplishing. Maybe it's because I knew in the back of my mind, and I know what people will say, you don't have to use those features. But gamers, when they're given these quality of life improvements, 9 times out of 10, unless you're doing a specific challenge, you're going to use them. You're going to use them. So in the back of my mind, I knew I had the potions ready for me. I knew that I could go back to camp and change armors and change weapons. I knew I had that accessibility. I knew that I had my Palico and my Palamute with me. You know, in Monster Hunter World, I had the Clutch Claw. I was able to, and obviously you had to evade the monsters, but I could fast travel back to camp, and I could eat foods again if I died. The money was abundant. Like, you got more materials. And this isn't a bad thing, but I noticed this when playing World and Rise. There were fun fights, but when I played Monster Hunter Freedom Unite, if I did not properly prepare, the game would make me pay for it. And I miss that. I miss being punished for not necessarily the game cheating, but for me going in cocky and non-prepared for what I was about to face. And that's where Monster Hunter and the Soul series are alike. If you go in thinking you're about, now, and that's, you know, I'll get to this point in a second, but if you go in thinking you're about to just obliterate everything, 9 times out of 10, Monster Hunter, Dark Souls, they're going to make you pay for it. Now, the beautiful part about these games is when you actually start to learn the patterns, when you start to prepare, when you start to learn how to dodge effectively, when you start to learn your weapon variety more efficiently, you sense the growth. You sense that. Like, one thing I have yet to do, which I might even stream on YouTube with you guys, I've yet to solo Fatalis in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. That one is going to be a while because I'm a dual blade user and a long sword user. And I've seen people do it, but I'm not there yet. But I guarantee when I beat Fatalis solo, I'm going to feel that sense of accomplishment that I might not feel in the 5th gen. And I love the 5th gen. Please don't think this is me beating down 5th gen. But I don't know, man. Maybe, you know, again, quality of life improvements, everything like that are fun. But think about this, Monster Hunter Rise. When you do 4 players, yes, they increase the health pool. That's not challenging. That's just making the hunt longer. Realistically, you can, and you know, it became like this in the new game, in the older games too, when you leveled up. But even now, fights are relatively short. And they don't have that sense of, am I really gonna win this? Typically, when I play Monster Hunter now, like the 5th generation games, I'm like, yo, I'm gonna win this fight. There is no sense of, am I going to have opposition? And I miss that stuff. I miss actually having to go in my chest and prepare and make sure I have things. Because think about this. Now, you can just find everything in the wildlife, which is fine. I'm not saying it's bad. But you also, in the old games, you could combine stuff, but it was less abundant. If I went somewhere and I fought Yi and Garuga or something, and I didn't have potions, if I didn't have antidotes, I was gonna pay. If I got poisoned, I was going to pay for that. And you couldn't go back to your tents. You could sleep there and get your health back, but if, let's just say, you know, you ate before, or you didn't, and you missed out on your health and defense upgrades, you had to think much smarter. You had to think much smarter, which, again, I miss that stuff. As a Monster Hunter fan, I miss that stuff. If I went and I was gonna fight an Elder Dragon, if I did not properly prepare, especially when I was a more novice hunter, oh, the frustration. Or, what's another one? I can't remember the last time in a Monster Hunter game. Actually, I lied, because there was a... I gotta think about that now. Was there a time in Rise where it came down to the wire? I don't think so, actually. Maybe there was, but I can't think of one. But the most sad hunt I've had was in Generations Ultimate. I was trying to solo Fatalis, and I couldn't beat it because I ran out of time, and I was so frustrated. But it was like, man, if I get better, I know I can do it now. I haven't had that kind of feeling in Rise, and I don't know how it's gonna be in Wilds. I don't want the games to become so. I don't want it to become, and maybe this is just selfish. This is me being selfish, and I can admit that. But I don't want it to get to a point where it's become so accessible that it loses the identity of what Monster Hunter was and what made Monster Hunter, especially to us older fans. Again, I'm not mad that they have the quality of life improvements. I use them, but I do catch, like I said, I do catch myself going back, and I'm like, man, when I play the older games, I'm like, man, I sure do miss, I do miss the good old days, But let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think about where Monster Hunter was and where it's at now. And do you miss the old days at all? Do you miss having to use, having to actually buy pickaxes and bug nets, and having to actually plan out when you're going to use whetstones, and how you used to have to stop to use a potion? To me, it made it more strategic. You had to really plan this stuff out. But I can see where some people don't like it, and that's okay. But I do. So let me know what you guys think in the comments, guys. And like I said, we might actually stream some Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate and me prepare for a solo Fatalis. So if so, come join, all right? I'll catch you guys next video. Take it easy.